Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the Power Shift Seasonal Event, which is an alternate game mode in which every unit in our starting deck gets its power set to its provision cost. That means that some low power but high provision cost cards are significantly stronger than usual. And for that reason, today we are playing an absolutely ridiculous deck, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Nilfgaard double cross deck that focuses on playing Renfri and getting as many copies of her leader ability as possible, because what Renfri does is she will replace our starting leader ability, which means we're going to want to use our starting leader ability pretty quickly. So then when we play Renfri, we get a new one, and we have several active abilities to choose between with the curse side of things, and then also several passive side of things to consider with the blessing. Once we've done that, we'll use a bunch of cards that allow us to get this leader ability back. So those include using Double Cross to potentially steal a Renfri from our opponents, playing Renfri directly. Using Terranova once we have put Spying on an opposing Renfri to create another Renfri. Using Damien once we've used Renfri's ability to replay Renfri's ability. Notably, whenever we do this, whenever we replay one of our leader abilities, we will lose the passive side. So when it comes to choosing your Renfri abilities, try to pick something that is high tempo and not something that takes a long time to trigger, like say the one that gives you a boost at the end of the round, because if you do replace that ability or replay that ability with Damien before the end of the round, then you're going to remove that part anyway. Also, Damien does not work if you use the cooldown blessing, so don't choose that. Once again, if we have Spying on an opposing Renfri, we can use Coup de Grace to play another Renfri. We can use Letho Kingslayer to transform into another Damien, so that once again we can replay Renfri's ability. Then Shilard here is mostly setup, because he will weaken the highest card in our opponent's hand down to a 1, which at 13 provision / power in this event, Renfri is likely to be the highest card in our opponent's hand if they have her, so that's a way to, even if we don't get Spying on the opposing Renfri, get her into death blow range on Coup de Grace. Then, once they use Renfri, we can steal their Renfri ability using on a Henrietta. And I think that might be it in terms of the total Renfri count. So it is 1 from Double Cross, 1 from Renfri, 1 from Terranova, 1 from Damien, 1 from Coup de Grace, 1 from Kingslayer, and 1 from Ana Henrietta, which is a total of 7 possible Renfri leader abilities, which is amazing. Now, the chances of you getting absolutely all of those to work perfectly are extremely low. Don't get me wrong. We can, however, still benefit from getting at least some of them back, assuming that we play Renfri and we just reuse our own Renfri ability. And if our opponent doesn't have Renfri, then we can use cards like Shilard and other cards we'll talk about in a second to still set up Coup de Grace and Terranova to create whatever other powerful cards we want to create copies of. So, other setup includes Mage Torturer to give Spying to whatever big card you want to set up for Coup de Grace or Terranova, and similarly, the Thanedd Turncoat. So those are the main ways to set that up, in addition to Shilard, like we were saying before. Other than that, just for consistency's sake, we have Matta, and we have Triss Butterflies, which, because they're both 9 provisions, are solid point slams, in addition to their other abilities that give us increased consistency. Then we have Hunting Pack. Since we're giving Spying, we don't have a ton of statuses to give out, but should be able to get a little bit of thinning here. And also a point slam for the Viper Witcher Alchemist. Everything else is a 4 provision cost card, which, you know, in some cases has some value. Then Moorlehem Servant can also help set us up for the Spying if, for example, we put Spying on a card and we feel like, you know, it's not our preferred target to set up for Coup de Grace or Terranova, and then soon after that, they play a Renfri or play something else that's really big that you do want to use with those cards, then you can use Van Moorlehem Servant to pass over the Spying onto that preferred target. And then Fortune Teller, I mean, this is a tech card, mostly for if your opponent is doing Lippy shenanigans, you can give Doomed to a card like, well, Renfri, or maybe Ceres, cards that you think they're going to want to recycle using Lippy. Target those with the Melee Row Doomed Fortune Teller ability. And Toussaint Knight Errant just for damage. And a little more statuses from the Moorlehem Hunter in case you need something else to set up the Hunting Pack. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it is all about trying to maximize your Renfri leaderability count, and although it's pretty matchup dependent to get the absolute full value out of it, and therefore it's a little bit memey, there are still absolutely alternatives, as long as you just, well, identify what your preferred targets are for Coup de Grace and Terranova, even if it's not going to be a Renfri. Full disclosure, I have a really sore throat and stuffy nose right now, so it is really painful for me to record right now, and therefore I was not able to get a Renfri match before. I just had to stop. So while in theory that was the matchup that I was looking for to maximize the total Renfri count, there are certainly still alternative ways to use those combos. So with that being said, let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have a pretty weak hand here. We have Damien, and we have Letho to create a second Damien, but we are missing all of our other golds. We also have 2 hunting packs in our hand, and that is not something we ever want to see. Oh, goodness gracious. This is not, not really what we're looking for here. Yeah, so we can at least give a status with, well, any of you. And that does set up the thinning with hunting pack. Okay, there's Renfri. That does certainly help. Sarah's first. I mean, it's a traditional Lippy deck. It looks like it might be. Given how they have Earth Sign Ritual and they're going turn 1 Sarah's. So that means what we'll do here, because their entire strategy centers around using Ceres to create a bunch of copies of these Shield Maidens, would be, we'd actually kind of like that Squirrel at some point, but we'll use the Fortune Teller. Maybe not just yet, but we'll put Doomed on Ceres so that it doesn't go into their graveyard, so they can't recycle it with Lippy. Well, let's go Nauzicaa Sergeant first, as that'll get boosted when we eventually end up doing that. Okay, Coral. Also wouldn't be a bad choice giving Doom to Roach, but I think Ceres is still a higher priority. Let's do this if we're getting greedy. And technically, if they discard again with Coral on their next turn, they might be able to destroy this before we can boost them up. But the plan was to go Fortune Teller next. Okay, yeah, Burna was logical choice. So this is probably dead. I mean, something is dead. Okay, so now, this is where we use Fortune Teller. And mess with Ceres. Okay, Oniro. They have, no, they already summoned out their starting Shield Maidens. More discard. Another Skirmisher. They had a very good starting hand. At this point, we may be looking at leader ability followed by Renfri. I think we are. That's not terribly surprising to see. Let's see, is that? It's 22 points, except this will not be initiative. So we'll have to go melee row, which is not quite as good. Magic Compass is honestly not a terrible option either. The fact that they have Magic Compass suggests that they probably are not a Renfri deck. So they did not try to squeeze her in as well. We obviously are. Was a good target this year. Was going to be a good target for you, but I think we'll go this option here. And if we can get cooldown, we do. Let's do it. It's going to mean absolutely humongous Renfri. So they probably have a... Well, we know they have a Geralt. So we are basically just absolutely inviting them to use that right now, which is exactly what they'll do. So that's why, generally speaking, we talked about this in our previous Renfri deck for Skellige. Although, in terms of pure points, that looks like the boost based on base power is a great option with Renfri. And using it on Renfri, there's so many Heralds in this event. It's generally not the way to go. So, at this point, I mean, they have a big lead. We could, at the very least... Oh, we destroyed... I need to do hunting back before we destroyed Saris. Yeah. Yeah, because that was how we were going to get the thinning from that status there. And we could still go... Turncoat on Igni is not bad. They may very well choose to pass if we do that, because we're still going to have a lot of ground to make up, but... Would be nice. It would be nice to at least have the option of creating a copy of Igni in the future. The right move for them, yeah, is to pass. Puts us in an awkward place here because, sure, we can hunting pack, get the thinning, but it's just 10 points, and this is 1 point as well, so that's getting us up to 25, or the equivalent to 25, which is nowhere near enough. So I think we are probably still going to be passing here, losing on even. It's not as bad on 5 cards as it is on 4 cards. It was mostly just to set up a potential Terranova. Okay, so we both have a throwaway card here. Theirs is, I mean, they're going to play Lippy, right? So, at some point, that might be the first card they play. We would love to be able to sneak in a Squirrel first to banish this Roach or one of the Shield Maidens. Both would be great. Don't really need to have both of you. Okay. Okay, Scald first. On Morkvarg, the one discardable card that they did not have in round 1. Got it here, though. So yeah, I mean, it is tempo-wise, it's not enough, but it is very tempting to take this opportunity to Squirrel, banish Roach before they get the chance to Lippy and immediately benefit from that. So, I think I'm going to do it. It's good for one reason, it's not so good for another. So I imagine they're trying to push 2-0 here. So it's good if they are trying to push 2-0. If they're satisfied selling for just round 3, then tempo-wise, since it was not a high-tempo play, it was not a great option, but they're giving us a chance here. Catch up a bit. Now they do have a status on Morkvarg, so that does mean hunting pack thinning does work right off the bat, which is useful. Hard to say if that's going to be worth more than the Alchemist. I mean, presumably, most of their big cards are in their graveyard or in their hand, and they've deliberately tried to keep their deck with just their small cards. Might mean that Alchemist has a relatively low probability of being good, but we know Lippy was in hand. It's not in deck. That would have been a great target for him, but yes, we'll go the safe route here. It's definitely not going to be quite enough pacing-wise, though. But I still think they're trying to play Lippy in this round. Mastercrafted Spear. It's not amazing. So, I think we will go the Alchemist now and take our chances. Okay, oh, Xavier, actually, they're using Graveyard Banish. That's kind of surprising. So now, tempo-wise, we've matched them. May mean they're going to start more strongly considering Lippy. Oh, no. It's pure damage. Cordal is good. He's good in this event, for sure. Triss to get Shilard actually be great. Or Matta to get Artaud, so we can get that Igni that we set up in round 1. That's why we were so willing, or not so willing, but why we chose to eventually play an extra card, or risk that we were going to need to play an extra card and lose uneven when we otherwise might have been able to avoid that. Magic Compass. Ooh, not quite. Very, very close. Can be. No! I wanted Matta. But I wanted Matta. I mean, could have been worse. But we do now have Curse of Gluttony active, which means we'd like to have something big on the board right now. Namely, Damien. And then when we use Damien to get our leader ability back, notably, it does not give us the blessing anymore, so we'll get the ability to boost based on base power, but we will lose the cooldown aspect. And, ooh, okay, so yes, it was enough. It was enough. However, it means that Letho Kingslayer is not going to have a great option here. Or at least may not have a great option going into the next round. Okay, so we are actually a card up at this point. We have Letho. We drew into Terranova, which is great. And we have the setup for Coup with the Turncoat. So we'd like to have a turn 1 play here, really, more than anything. And Shilard would probably be best. If we could get him, we did not. Okay. In which case, turn 1 is awkward. We were saying how Letho might not really have a great option to transform into. We could have him transform into Terranova. We don't get the deploy ability, but we will get the assimilate. I mean, at that point, we're not really doing much in the way of assimilate procs. We might... Yeah, I mean, that's, what, maybe worth an extra 1 or 2 points? So, I think it's not a huge deal to lose 1 or 2 points. We'd rather... I mean, it's worth more to get the value from the Toussaint Knight Errant than it is to... we'd rather brick you than brick you, odd as that seems. Unless it's going to be one of you, but that's still not really going to be great. Okay, there's the Magic Compass. This time it will work. That is a little scary. Oh, did they... Wait, what? Hold on. Didn't they have Lippy in their starting deck? We saw it when we used our leader ability, did we not? Huh? Or did they... I thought I saw they only had 1 card in their deck. Did I just not see that properly? I mean, we could coup him, and in doing so, we therefore have the option to flip our own deck, which doesn't really matter for us all that much. So that's not really significant. It's also probably, for that reason, not a card we particularly want to use the Turncoat on either. It's not tall enough to be a big factor for Toussaint Knight Errant, but I guess we'll do it nonetheless, because at this point, we're missing out on potentially 2 points of damage here, but I think we'd still rather optimize you guys. Okay, Blue Boy. It's a card that we do not really want to damage. Which does make this a little bit awkward, because we are probably going to need to damage him. Yeah. At this point, we do need to go Turncoat. I mean, he's a better option than Lippy is for us, so that's something. Okay, this is Oniro into the Shield Maidens. Last leader ability charge. And that's where we're going to Terranova into Igni and destroy them all. All at one. I really hate that that ended up in this row. I mean, technically, the starting ones versus the additional copies you created have different amounts of power, so it still wouldn't have been great. But we might wait for Terranova then. In fact, it's not even big enough in this row for an Igni right now. So they might be able to dodge that altogether. That would be rather unfortunate. I think what we'll do is we will hit you once with the Turncoat. Because we're gonna damage you at some points, some way, either through that or through Coup de Grace, but this time we just destroy you altogether. Create a new copy. I mean, I suppose this actually could be Blue Boy if we wanted it to be. It's Xavier as their last card, okay. It is the right place to play him, because it means you are not igniable. But if we go Terranova now, he is a 13-point body, which is, of course, in and of itself huge. And then because nothing is igniable, we should go Blue Boy just for the pure point slam. And that's enough. Alright, so going up against monsters here. And they'll go first. Okay, so no Renfri, but we can get Renfri using Matta over here. We definitely don't want to see 2 hunting packs. Coup, which we can set up with Thanedd Turncoat, and or with the assistance of the Moorlehem Servant. Not really sure Squirrel's going to be necessary here. Okay, Damien, that's definitely nice. Okay, it's Old Spear Tip asleep. We do not have an Old Spear Tip of our own, so that's not really gonna be a great card for us to mess with all of our duplication efforts. But we could opt for the Matta play here and make sure that we get our Renfri as soon as possible. So I guess we'll go that route. There she is. Okay, Maxi. Huh. That's a little surprising. Would not have expected you to be that concerned about all the golds in your deck and whatnot, and unless you are planning some really big combo like Renfri, for example, maybe there's reason to hold on to things like Coup, and we might be able to snag an additional copy of Renfri. That'd be amazing. So I think we are, in that case, probably going to look to play our Renfri soon here. Maybe we just go Hunting Pack first, because they do have a status. And we will want to use our starting leader ability, Double Cross, before we break out Renfri. So, you know, the fewer cards they have in their hand, the higher probability we get the key cards that they're really trying to play. And we still want to play our Renfri fairly early in case we do get the option of going with cooldown 7, which would be really nice. Okay, so Nero, is this going to be Renfri? It might be. No, it's a Self-Eater. Huh. And there's the old Spear Tip. Okay. Well, we might still be looking to play this next. We might still be looking to do that. If so, then we should do this first. Let's go for it. Okay, we can learn a little bit more about what they're doing here. Morn's Heart, now that's not really helpful for us right now. Spores is not super helpful either. I guess we're doing Brewis, for lack of a better option. And then playing Renfri, and with her, we might want the Curse of Sloth, or damn it, let's go Curse of Sloth. I do like that one. And then if we can get cooldown 7, that'd be great. We do not get it. I think we go Blessing of Humility. If you get that early in round 1, that's really nice, because that's functionally 15 points of value. Or at least can be, if you're playing it all rounds. Okay, there's the Brewis that we saw. Alright, so one thing we might want to do here is go leader ability, play the Thanedd Turncoat, and give Spying to this old Spear Tip, because, I mean, we're not going to get the super high base power version, but we're going to get a decent option for us to either hit with a Coup de Grace, or maybe even create a copy of it with Terranova, and then if they do play something like Renfri later on that we can use Van Moorlehem Servant to still put spying on it, and then that can become the target of Coup de Grace or Artaud. So I think that's the plan. We use you. And we should also draw into either Letho or Shilard. Leaning towards Shilard, actually. Technically, Shilard is more setup. Hold on. We'll play him immediately as well. Technically, he's more setup for things like Coup de Grace. I mean, he's, in general, great because in this event, there are tons of high power cards, base power cards, in our opponent's hand, but it's another way of, if they do have a 13 base power Renfri, dropping that down to 1, making it much easier to hit it with Coup de Grace. Since we have the setup we need for that, then that's not as necessary. And that could have been a case for going for Damien instead, or rather a Letho to create a second Damien, so we can load up on even more leader ability charges, but, you know, take your pick. Either one is good. So at this point, I mean, we could wait around and see if we happen to get the option of using Coup de Grace on a Renfri, but I think we might settle at least a bit. And we could still go Triss Butterflies and get Letho into our hand that way. In fact, let's do that now. Tempo-wise, we still have time. Don't need to be too concerned about tempo just yet. So let's put you back. You're the least important. You are the best card we still have in our deck. Let's do this. Okay, Lesser Witch, not a huge deal. They basically just your normal Relicts deck. Doesn't look too out of the ordinary here. But I think now is where we say, okay, we can settle for a Coup de Grace on a 12-point spear tip. That's not so bad. Okay, they'll pass. And that means we can win on even here, which is great. Not to mention, didn't we? Yeah, we took the boost our lowest unit by 5 when we pass option, so we're going to get even more points still when we do this. Okay, and so we already had basically all of our best cards in hand, so we did win on even here. And unfortunately, if we dry pass, they still have a throwaway card, so we might just look to push here, in truth. And see how things go. We have our echoed copy of Coup de Grace. We still have some setup for Coup de Grace, though, thankfully, between Thanedd Turncoat, Mage Torturer. I don't think we've seen their one power card they had in their hand that we created or weakened using Shilard, so maybe they just put that back into their deck. It's possible, but I think we'll stick with this for the time being. It gives us lots of ways to set up the spine, so Coup de Grace still is the setup it needs. And that being said, what is our first turn play here? It could be Damien. It could be. Rather, I mean, if we are going to steal their leader ability, then we'd like to do that fairly early, because Fruitsy Iskith is definitely better the earlier you play it. But just not sure that's great value for us, especially not if we're going to reset it with Damien and Letho into a second Damien. Definitely would prefer this, I think. So let's go Damien. Especially because this leader ability gives us, or allows us to play bronze cards from our hand and draw into more cards, so we have some bronze cards. It means we can start doing that soon. Okay, Oniro. They have something big. Presumably, this is their means to get that. Ah, darn, they're going to lock Damien. Okay, I mean, fair enough. We are still going to create a second Damien. So you may not succeed. But your clone, I mean, hopefully will. Okay, She Who Knows. Yeah, that's a card we'd love to create a copy of. So I think we will definitely do that with the assistance of Coup de Grace. So let's activate Damien. We'll use our leader ability here. It does, unfortunately, get rid of the blessing component, so that means we'll no longer get the lowest unit boosted by 5 at the end of this round when we pass. But I think that's a sacrifice we'll be willing to make here. Because now, we can do this to, I think we'll go Turncoat, I suppose. And we'll draw into, and we do already have most of our big cards here. Alchemist is technically the best one that we don't yet have. So we'll use you, and with you, give you Spying, and then Who you, like so. And we are already at Sabbath, whereas they are not. And tempo-wise, we're in much better shape, so puts them in a really tricky spot here. Okay, Alzur's Thunder doesn't change too much, so we could pass right now if we want to. Alternatively, we could... We want to go all in. Terranova into a second She Who Knows. And at that point, at double She Who Knows is... Oftentimes, it does not actually give you the carryover on 2 separate She Who Knows. Or actually, in this case, it would give us the carryover on a Damien instead. And they'd both be, yeah. So it's still only going to be 1 unit getting resilience with the 11-point Damien, I believe. Still 10-point body, which is not bad. Actually, Old Spirited might be better for that reason. But if we are going to go this route, then technically... Are we just going pure tempo? I guess we're just going pure tempo. I guess we're just going pure tempo. It's going to say, technically, if we're trying to go and play every single card in this round, then that means that Mage Torturer getting another assimilate engine on the board before we trigger assimilate with this would have been nice, but okay, we also had some very, very tall cards, so that was a very nicely done Predatory Dive, and they got rid of what was our smallest card, Thanedd Turncoat with damage, so that was a smart Alzur's Thunder, which I had dismissed as insignificant, but that's not necessarily the case, after all. So, is this enough? I think we might as well go all the way at this point, right? In which case we should probably go on a Henrietta, steal their leader ability so we can use this as soon as possible, and at least in that case we're getting a little bit of value out of it. Not a ton, but a little bit. Steal you. Okay, they could have gotten a little more points on that if they put it next to She Who Knows, but they didn't, for whatever reason. They also did not use their leader ability, so they missed out a little bit there as well. Let us go Mage Torturer. And with it, doesn't matter too much what we're going for at this point. Okay, Megascope is, I don't think, gonna be all that big of a difference maker here. Now we can go Moorlehem Servant. I mean, this is not a huge play at this point, but just copy over the Spying onto you, or could have even done Doomed if we really wanted to. Okay, Spores. Oh, we saw they had that. That's not a very big reset, though. I would have been much better on this Viper Witcher Alchemist that we're about to play. Anything big? Not bad. So that means they need an absolutely humongous finisher here. And we do know they have the Mornsart, but they don't have time to use that orderly anyway. So we may not have been able to create copies of the Renfris with the tall monster units. Nice alternative. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And they'll go first. Okay, so let's see. We have Terranova, which is good, but we need the setup for him by putting Spying on some of their cards, and we don't yet have that. Shilard can weaken their biggest card, and in doing so, set up a coup, even without the Spying, so that's not bad. We would very much like get a source of Spying. Now, Letho ideally is for Damien, which we could get with the Triss butterflies. That is an option. Still thinking we're looking for a little bit more, though, and that's not really it. So we do have some flexibility with Triss. That card is substantially weaker than it is in Standard, but if you insist. So maybe we'll just start with a point slam here and see where that takes us. That's not bad. I mean, that was an Assimilate card. It might just be a pure Assimilate deck. That's also substantially weaker in this event. That's weird. Okay. I mean, at this point, we could maybe just go Type Juggler, and that sets up a hunting pack on our next turn. Okay, they can purify the bleed from one of their cards, so we still have time to get a hunting pack off here. So we'll do it for the thinning and for the point slam. Okay, oh yeah. Yeah, we're big enough for them to remove that with Geralt. Okay, now... And that's not a terrible target for us to give Spying to, but we would need to go Triss Butterflies in order to get a card that does that first. Or alternatively, we use Shilard now, which might be the play. Weaken the biggest card in their hand down to a 1, which means it's immediately in coup territory. Now, was it going to be Geralt's? I don't know. Might have been something... Well, it was Rune Mage. And we'll take a Rune Mage. Take a Rune Mage and then Leader ability. Give us more options. That's... Oh, okay. That is now not an option anymore. That was really lucky, actually. But, huh. In which case, do we have anything that we particularly like here? I think it has to be Triss. I think it probably has to be Triss, and it might even just be Triss into, or Triss to Matta, really, is probably best. Which will give us Renfri in that case. Let's put back the Squirrel. Doesn't make a ton of sense here. So this is not set up for spying. It's just set up for more big cards. Imperial Diplomacy, I mean, yeah, it just looks like an Assimilate deck, although with some not so great additions. Okay. So now, and in some ways, that has handicapped us because we are trying to create copies of their cards and they don't have great options until they boosted up this Rune Mage, which was going to be properly set up for the coup. But now I believe it's Matta Clock. This will give us Renfri. That is a card we can play whenever we'd like. And in fact, might want to play it early in case we get the cooldown option. Did you want Slave Infantry? That is worth negative points there. Although I was still potentially eyeing that. Okay, so that almost dropped them down. We don't have any points we're going to generate at the end of this turn, do we? No, okay. So we're probably still playing Renfri here. Probably still playing her. Yes, she's big, but it's worth playing her early. Play bronze, draw a card of our choice. That would be useful. That would be useful. Cooldown 7, let's do it. And let's use it immediately in that case. It means we're playing Fortune Teller. And let's get, I think, probably Damien. We're just prioritizing. Hold on, are we going Veil? Are we going Doom? Do we have anything we want to give Doom to? Okay. Galaxy Brain. Veil on Renfri, so that they can't put Spying on her, and then steal her. Also, we should have used leader ability before our starting leader ability before we played Renfri. I honestly totally forgot. Not that it mattered, because we were going to win this round anyway, but of course if we were able to... Well, we also knew they didn't have anything bigger than a 10 anyway, because their card that got hit by Shilard was a Rune Mage, and so they theoretically didn't have anything all that great remaining in their hands. So, yeah, you know, should do it, of course, before playing Renfri every time, but didn't make a difference there. Okay, so this is one of the key pieces we were missing before, because we can now apply Spying, which means that sets up Terranova, it sets up Coup de Grace, and we can use Moorlehem Servant to give us a little more margin for error in case we're forced into using our Spying option early, and turns out we see a better target for it later on. So let's switch you out, and this might be our first turn play. Now, technically, we won uneven, so we could push here if we'd like, or we could dry pass and force them to go a card down and give us double last sane round 3. That might be what we want to do here. How do we feel about that? Then again, if we do play, we can get our Echoed Coup de Grace in round 3. It is still a little tricky to set that up, but maybe that's still beneficial. Let's go for that. Nauzicaa Sergeant first, because that will be a card that gets boosted whenever we play basically anything else. Okay, Dazbog Runestone. Another Assimilate card, and point slam-wise, that did work. Leader ability as well, we have some very good targets for them to steal, including Damien. But however, that does also mean putting Spying on Damien is quite an intriguing option here. One that I would like to pursue. Because now, unless they purify him, I mean, even if they do purify him, we can still use Terranova to create a copy. We can use Coup de Grace on him if they don't... Alright, that one does matter if they purify, but... Let's see. The lock, I mean, I'm glad they're locking you rather than the Damien that we're about to create. We'll take that. Okay, now they did have more lock, unfortunately. However, we can use Letho to transform into a second Damien if we would like. Or they're gonna... At this point, it's... Oh, right, they have, they used Rune Mage, so they were guaranteed to see Damien there. So they chose him over Letho and over Terranova. I mean, I guess. Makes sense. Let's use Letho here, though. Do they have even more lock? I mean, they're... Yeah, actually, we're just going to trade off turn after turn, exchanging Damiens at this point until we play our original Damien. We probably should have actually played our original Damien. I'd rather you not do that. That was not very nice. Okay, well, what do we still have left in our deck that is of interest to us? Probably Anna Henrietta in particular, which we're about to get from our leader ability here. So, another Damien. If we must. Now they can no longer steal the Damiens, or at least not using their leader ability. Although they'll steal our leader ability using Anna Henrietta. Okay. Oh, no, don't move, Damien. Oh. I mean, that's the right play. I assume that's what they're about to do. What do we have to do to use a stinking Damien? Well, the answer is maybe a Terranova into a Damien. Maybe now? And then also, leader ability, play you, and get you. So we'll transfer over Spying, I mean, I guess. To you, it doesn't matter all that much anymore. Oh, and now we can do that. Okay. Aguara. Not bad, actually. For what it's worth. We cannot Damien right now. Because we don't have any bronze cards in our hand. Which really stinks. Because what we would like to do right now would be Damien, leader ability, on a Henrietta, steal the leader ability back and use that one as well. But it just doesn't really make a difference here. So in truth, we'd actually prefer just to not play on a Henrietta at all and save her for round 3. Okay, so now if we are going to use Coup, we need to make sure that we have a card that is Coup-able. And we can set that up with the Turncoat or with damage. That is easier said than done. Okay, we do have Turncoat, so now this is safe. Okay, Uma's Curse into Triss. We do not have any bronze special cards in our deck. They do. We could turn you into a spy. It's not a terrible option. We also are going to need to use Anna Henrietta relatively soon, so we don't run into the same situation we had previously, where we just don't have any bronze units, so we can't use our leader ability, because that actually was a serious detriment in the previous round. But I guess we could do that now if we really wanted to. Yeah. Well, if they have tall removal, it gives them an easier option for that. So we'll go Turncoat now. Then next turn, it should be this or that. Okay, also Thunder. A little unfortunate, but we are about to put up some more points, whereas if they're just dealing damage, they may not be able to keep pace with us. So I think... Now we should... We'll do this first. And then... 4 power... I think we can do better than that. Well, kind of. But not that much. Okay, sure. Now it needs to be on a Henrietta leader ability, otherwise we're not going to have time to use this because we won't have any bronzes left. I was kind of waiting for them to play something big. I was hoping we'd have a decent target for this. I mean, suppose now that might end up being the case, at least to a certain extent. So now it's you. And now it's you. And we will get... What's our best finisher here? Most of these are cards that are either setup or things we'd like to play earlier. So it might even be you, to be honest. Okay, Oniro. Triss is not bad, although there aren't many cards here for her to mess with. It is enough for them to catch us here, although that is a good target for Toussaint and Errant. Is that enough for us to catch them? Yes, it is. Incredibly weird match, but we won. So there's a look at the new Skellige Renfri Lippy deck for the new Power Shift seasonal event. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.